This is seafood from Trader Joe's, and I bought a whole bunch of different types, and I'm going to taste them and rank them using this system right here from S to F. Let's get started with the ahi tuna. Now, this is smoked ahi tuna, and to be honest, I've never seen ahi tuna in this form before. So what it basically is, it looks like it's just hardwood smoked tuna, kind of like smoked salmon. And my biggest questions are the taste and of course the texture of this as well. It was pretty easy to remove the piece of tuna from the other pieces of tuna, which can be a problem with some smoked salmon. And looking at it, it actually looked like a piece of seared tuna. Giving it a taste, there was a little bit of smokiness, but honestly, it tasted just like seared tuna. This would be perfect on top of like a poke bowl or even on bagels, but what I decided to do is put some seaweed salad on it. This is some gochujang seaweed salad. I almost made like a little roll, and this was absolutely delicious. We're starting off strong with an S tier for this one. Next up is the Everything But the Bagel smoked salmon, and I'm a sucker for smoked salmon, and I honestly think Everything Bagel seasoning is one of the best seasonings out there. So I was pretty excited to try this one. Now opening it up, it had a good smell to it, and the salmon had a nice color as well. This is farm-raised Atlantic salmon, and you can see the fillets are actually pretty big. Now I'm not sure if it's the high fat content in salmon, but sometimes I find it really hard to get these pieces apart, but for this one, it wasn't too bad at all. I was able to start on this outside edge and slowly peel away and get a pretty nice chunk of this Everything Bagel seasoned salmon. Now it was time for the taste test, and I gotta say, my hopes were really high. On paper, this should be an S tier food, but after I tried it, it didn't have the seasoning I thought it would. You tasted the salmon, of course, but the Everything Bagel seasoning just really wasn't there. It still was good smoked salmon, but I was a little bit disappointed because I thought there'd be more flavor. I'm gonna go ahead and rank this C tier. And the last smoked fish I'm trying is actually smoked salmon, but this time it's sockeye salmon. And I picked this one because it's a wild salmon. A lot of people think farm-raised salmon is not something you should be eating. That's a debate for another day that I'm happy to discuss in another video if you guys want. So comment below if you want a farm-raised versus wild-caught salmon video. But for now, this right here is wild-caught sockeye salmon. What I noticed right away is that the fillets definitely were smaller on these sockeye salmons. And also, if you look really close, you can see that there's still some of the red meat right there on the salmon. That's going to give it a stronger kind of fishy taste. And I like it better when the smoked salmon has that kind of stuff removed. Now, I gave this one a taste and the texture was off to me. It was a little bit mushy. I didn't like the red meat in there. And overall, this wasn't my favorite. It wasn't horrible, but compared to the other two, I take those ones first. So we're going D tier for that. Now we're getting to the fish. Now I was going to say now we're getting to the fresh fish, but 2 out of the 3 of these packages are actually previous frozen. That includes this cod fillet package, and you can see it was $10.99 per pound, so $11.54, and previously frozen. I also got this wild salmon, which is $13.99 per pound, and it's a product of the USA. And the last one that I got is, of course, some Atlantic salmon as well. This is farm raised in Norway, and it came out to be about $11 per pound. It also doesn't have any skin on it, which some people prefer because the skin can hold a lot of toxins and bioaccumulation and different stuff in there. So a lot of people say it's actually better to get salmon without skin on. I decided I was going to bake the salmon and the cod because I just wanted to keep everything pretty simple. I used the salmon rub from Trader Joe's, covered all the fish fillets in that. And yes, I know people like cod to be fried more than they like to be baked or broiled or grilled, but this is how I decided to do it to keep it pretty consistent. First up is the wild salmon. It flaked really easily. It actually smelled delicious and it tasted pretty good. It didn't taste at all like it was previously frozen. I was kind of surprised by how fresh it actually tasted. And the seasoning rub was super good too. A little bit of sweetness with a little bit of kick too. I'm going B tier for that fish. Next up is the Atlantic salmon from Norway. And this Atlantic salmon was the only fresh, never frozen fish out of all of them. And while it tastes nothing like the wild salmon, I give this one a B tier as well because I still think it tastes good. Last up is the cod. And after tasting this cod, I see why so many people like cod. It was good. It had a little bit of flavor of its own, but it did a great job of taking on all the seasoning. And I gotta say, out of all the fish that I had from those packages, this was by far my favorite, and I can see why so many people like it for its versatility and its deliciousness. I'm going A tier for cod. Now I'm going on to ahi tuna. Now this ahi tuna was brown on the edges. This is directly a result of the way that I defrosted it. I actually introduced oxygen to these tuna fillets, which caused oxidation, kind of like rusting of the fillets. It's not really going to affect the flavor too much, but visually it can be a little off-putting to see your tuna brown. Now I diced these up into cubes because I'm going to make poke, and not just the normal marinated poke. I decided I want spicy poke. So you want to dice them up into those smaller cubes, and after that I add a dash of soy sauce and then some sriracha mayo. While you could definitely make your own sriracha mayo, I find the pre-bottled stuff to work just as well. I like cutting up my green onions now, but you could also put them on after the tuna has time to marinate. Add some toasted sesame seeds and then let it sit for at least 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, it's going to look just like this, and it's time for a taste. Obviously, some of the taste is going to be covered up by the marinade there, but I gotta say, you could still taste the freshness of this tuna. I was a little bit cautious at first because I wasn't positive how good it was going to be, but I gotta say, it was better than the Aldi tuna and up there with some other grocery store frozen tuna I've had. I'm going to go A tier for the tuna. Next is swordfish steaks. I've had swordfish once in my life, and it was actually from Trader Joe's. Back when I was a kid, I used to live just outside of Annapolis, and my Aunt Dee Dee loved eating at Trader Joe's. And I can remember one time she got a swordfish and I tried it, and I remember not liking it. I remember liking it okay, but I was a kid and I didn't really like much else than, chicken nuggets and fried fish. So for this, I decided I was going to cook it on the smoker. I did some seasoning on the outside and then smoked it at 350 degrees until it was medium, which was about 135 degrees internal temperature. This fish looked absolutely delicious, and when I took a bite, the seasoning was perfect. I love the garlic and lemon on it, and I gotta say, the texture and the taste is unlike other fish that I've tried. It's really firm. It's got a good meaty flavor to it, almost closer to chicken. I know that's a little cliche, but sorry, but this was really good and probably one of my favorite fish from Trader Joe's. I'm gonna go S tier with that one. Next up are the viral little lobster tails, or the langostino lobster tails. I've never had these before, and honestly, I think they just look like crawfish. So before making a dish with them, I decided I was going to try it just like this, since they're already cooked and ready to eat. These were a little bit mushy, probably because they were frozen, but they were actually pretty sweet, and they do remind me of crawfish, but not as like muddy tasting. Next, what I did was drain them, and I decided I was going to make a lobster tail or langostino little stir fry. Chopped up some green onions, and then it was time to process some garlic and ginger. I use this little hand blender here because I find it so much easier. I put 3 cloves of garlic in there and then 1 knob of ginger, and you give it a few pulls, and then you got your minced garlic and ginger. I find this way easier because it's less to clean up after you're done. Now you're going to cut up your bell pepper. I decided to cut up into small pieces because I like all the little vegetable pieces to be the same when I'm making a stir fry like this. And then I let it stir fry in there for about a minute aside. Now the camera turned off when I was making that, so I can't tell you the order, but after tasting it, this was actually really good. All the flavors went really well together, but I could still definitely taste that the langostino was a little bit mushy. I'm going to go B tier on that because it just wasn't as good as fresh, but I guess that's to be expected. And the very last one is this Argentinian red shrimp. Now, it is kind of everything combined in this one frozen package. And for me to find something like that is pretty crazy because I can't eat wheat, barley, anything like that because I'm actually like severely allergic to barley. So a lot of times these pre-packaged meals have something in them I can't eat, and I got to avoid them. But at Trader Joe's, I was able to find this, so I was pretty excited to give it a taste. It was simple to make. Just put a piece of butter in a pan and then dump all the ingredients in there after you defrost it, and then eat. These shrimp are definitely on the smaller side, but sometimes they can still be flavorful when they're that small. I gave it a taste and I love the seasoning, but you could tell these were frozen shrimp. The texture of them were definitely off, and overall, the sauce really covered up any of the kind of sweetness that the shrimp may have. Would I buy them again? Possibly, because it's something I could eat, but it'd probably be better to make it on my own using some shrimp that I know taste better than these ones that were in the package. I'm going C tier. In the comments, be sure to let me know some other places that I should try some seafood or some other things from Trader Joe's that I should be trying out.